Hello and welcome! Congratulations on making it here. Give yourself a pat on the back. What are we talking about today? Ah yes. War of the Visions, Evasion. With Venera now available on the global version of the game, I figure it's as good a time as any to dig into evade team compositions. On a personal note, it's really my favorite setup. It's gimmicky, but just so much fun when it works. It's definitely not a build that has a 100% win rate, as it has very specific weaknesses that hard counter it, which I'll get into later. But you will find a fair share of opponents that aren't prepared to deal with high evasion because they're busy dealing with something else, some other kind of meta. So when you do come across them, you could just laugh at their misery. So in this video, I'll break down some of the units that tend to be the best options to put on your team, what abilities they should have, what gear they should equip. We'll walk through what espers and vision cards make the most sense for them, and lastly, we'll consider when you should and shouldn't deploy this annoying team. As with all recommendations, they are simply recommendations. At the end of the day, you're in charge of yourself and you should play how you like to play. First, let me just get some pros and cons out of the way for anyone still wondering whether they should invest in building an evade team. Pros. They're very fast, boasting high base agility. They don't need to rely on other units on your team to survive. Get the f*** out, Ayaka, you're not needed here. Although I'll admit, a dodgy Ayaka would be kinda funny. They often come equipped with status ailment inflictions that can disable enemies. Freaking ninja action. Cons. They tend to be squishy, so if they do take a hit, there's a good chance they're either going to die or come pretty close to it. Guaranteed hits. These are spells or abilities that cannot be dodged, except by the reflex passive. These include the Ranger class Sharpshoot and the White Mage class Holy. Expensive, although this would really apply for any optimized build. But some of the best vision cards needed to make this build work well are pretty heavily gated. But hey, oftentimes fun comes at a price. With that out of the way, let's dig in a little bit. The evasion stat is the result of combining the luck stat and the agility stat. The higher your unit's luck and agility stats, the more likely they'll be able to dodge an attack. So while it's not surprising to see some of the best evade units have naturally high luck and agility, whether as part of their natural stat growth through leveling up, as part of their ability board, or both. Better yet, they have some kind of base evasion stat built in, whether through passive skills or master abilities. I'm going to focus on three main units that will make up an evade comp. The first is Shadow Lynx, an MR Dark Ninja unit that is way more accessible to players than the other two that I'll talk about. Lynx has a lot that works for evasion. High agility at 64, which is good for 5th best out of all units currently available in the global version of the game. Fairly high luck at 201. Not the best, 8th to be exact. However, she does also have multiple evasion boosting abilities baked into her unit, including 15 evasion in her master ability, as well as 2 support passives that play directly into evasion. Shadow Runner, which raises both luck and agility, and Blade Soul, which directly increases evasion rate. She also has the illusion skill as part of her Samurai Subjob kit, which grants AoE evasion to her and adjacent party members. Moving along, the second unit I want to talk about is 𝐻𝐿, a UR Earth Ninja unit and basically rare sister to Lynx. 𝐻𝐿 has a lot of things in common with Lynx, aside from just being a ninja. She has even higher agility at 69, which is the highest among all units currently available on global. So if you face 𝐻𝐿 running around out of control in any of your PvP match battles, now you know why. Her luck is high at 211, which is good for 4th highest. She also comes with various evasion boosting abilities, including plus 15 evasion from her master ability and the Shadow Runner passive. And before I get to the third unit, I do want to mention some wildcard units that are either very viable options or that I personally used in evade comps and have grown pretty fond of. The first is O, the MR Lightning Samurai. He basically has all the options that Lynx has: Samurai Job's Illusion, the Shadow Runner passive, and an evasion boosting master ability. Overall, he's a really strong option, but just not quite the strongest based on raw stats. The next two I've personally used, and they're not traditional evasion units, but they fit quite well for a variety of reasons. Spoiler alert, because they are magic users and currently the best evasion boosting vision card is magic based. The first is Ramza. Set as a Spellblade sub-job, he can manage to draw attention away from the squishier ninjas by using Taunting Spell. He's arguably the best party buffer and even has access to healing just in case Lynx or 𝐻𝐿 manage to take a hit and need some help. He also has pretty good base luck and agility, as well as the Shadowrunner passive. Second is Mediana. Did you ever wonder how on earth you can get Medi to work better in an AI-controlled PvP battle? Throw some evasion on her, flank her with two ninjas that are faster so they can get ahead of her, and let them distract the enemy units first before Medi comes in to nuke. Sounds great, doesn't always work, but it's a hell of a lot better than Medi waltzing in alone and getting smashed by Sid. So why Medi? This might start sounding like a broken record, but guess what she has? Pretty high luck, respectable agility, and of course, why not, access to the Shadowrunner passive. And just one more for good measure, why not throw Selir into the mix? Just like Medi, she has a ninja sub-job, so she also has access to Shadowrunner, and her stats are actually pretty similar in terms of base agility and luck. Now, the third and final unit that rounds out the dodgy trio is Venera. All stats and abilities concerned, Venera has the highest base evade rate out of all available units. She has massive luck at 233, high agility at 62, and evade boosting abilities in her master ability, support passives in Thief lore and tune-up that both increase agility, as well as a generic evade up passive. These units are the top 3 in terms of base evasion rates out of all units available on Global, even without considering skills, equipment, espers, and vision cards, but once decked out, they're even crazier. As a very general rule of thumb, to get the highest evasion, you want to make sure you squeeze in as much luck and agility as possible. This is why the Shadowrunner passive is so good, since that one passive raises both of those stats. So that solves for Lynx and 𝐻𝐿, but what about Venera? Venera doesn't have a passive skill that boosts luck, but she does have 2 that boost agility, Thief lore and tune-up. Tune-up is the must-have since it destroys enemy unit defenses, allowing Venera to be a real tank buster. Now to round out the support passives for all 3, Lynx should have Blade Soul, which automatically adds to her evasion rate and boosts her attack, both really nice to have. Similarly, 𝐻𝐿's last passive can be Self-Sacrifice, which also increases her attack. But what about Shukuchi? Both Lynx and 𝐻𝐿 already have high base movement being ninjas, so they generally already outpace most enemy units. It's helpful for getting around a map, but at the cost of damage, I wouldn't personally go for it. As for Venera, the last passive is a bit of a toss-up. There are 2 schools of thought, so let me know what you think, and smash that like button. So the first is to just continue going all in with evasion and just take the evade up passive. The second is to assist in offensive capabilities, which will be AP up, considering Venera's lack of efficient TP skills. Now, if you're fortunate enough to have Jesus' Illusory Belt TMR, then you won't need the extra AP help and can just take the evasion boost. For sub-jobs, let's just get the easy one out of the way, which is Lynx's. Samurai, Illusion, done. For 𝐻𝐿, there's debate between 2, Ninja and Soldier. Ninja is good as it gives access to the non-weapon type damaging skill Tone, but other than that, there's not too much else going on for it. I personally much prefer Soldier as it gives access to much harder hitting skills in Hard Slash and Hazard Spin, both of which are capable of one-shotting the ever-popular Sid. However, the best skill in the kit is Drain Force, which scales off your HP and goes right through any resistances enemies may have. It's a great way to cut through tanks, in addition to restoring any lost HP. But why not Time Mage? Well, because she kinda sucks at being one. There's potential utility in a different team composition, but not in an evade one where every party member is already pretty fast. And for Venera, the Thief subjob should be the traditional option as it grants very useful skills that complement Evasion, such as Shadowcast and Steal Time, all of which are TP skills which could help build that much needed AP. And shout out to Snipe Dagger, which is also a fantastic skill to have.
Why the hell does Venera not have Steel Heart? Hello?
The final piece is reaction abilities. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this because, fun fact, if you don't get hit, you don't trigger any reaction abilities. Third Eye for Lynx, Counter Slash for 𝐿, Dark Shadow for Venera. Equipment! Let's just get this out of the way. If you don't have 3 Dodge Sage's Hat +5 armed up, then you're screwed. No, I'm just kidding. You don't need those Sage's Hats, but they're basically best in slot. You will need hats though, some kind of them anyway, so let's just start with that. Sage's Hat. It's the best because the dodge version caps out at 19 raw evasion boosting stats, and to add on top of that, there's another +8 as part of the item's attributes for getting it up to +5. That said, they are hard to make, so if you don't have them or have the patience to go the distance, you can sub them out with the rare Wizard's Hat. It's the budget option. You can make dodge versions of these hats where at +5 it'll provide a bit less evade stats with 12 instead of 19, and 6 versus 8 as part of the item's attributes. But it costs way fewer crafting materials and way less of the most important resource, time. Circlet's an option too, but the jump in materials needed from Wizard's Hat to Circlet is pretty up there. You may as well have just spent your time farming Sage's Hat instead. The hat is a core piece of equipment in the evade build. What's left is the weapon and TMR slots, and those are much more flexible. There are plenty of options out there, so for these recommendations, I'll just give them my personal preferences. So focusing on 𝐿 first. I actually like giving her Shadow Lynx's TMR. The reason being is that I have 𝐿's Faith up to the max, which is 97, due to her Limit Burst and Shadowbind stop effect. Higher Faith means higher chance that the effect will trigger. So with Lynx's TMR, 𝐿 can also inflict paralysis on enemies with her basic attack. Just think about what a nightmare it would be to deal with. First, you can barely hit her, and when she hits you, you're completely locked down. That leaves one more equipment slot to play with, which will be an accessory. Hermes Sandals for the additional agility is nice to have, though Lynx's TMR already provides some modest agility. Since on global the equipment stats don't stack, there's not too much value in having Hermes here, as both the valuable dodge and agility stats are more or less covered elsewhere. So I like to use an AIM Alexandrite ring here for its high accuracy and elemental resistances. Crit won't work quite as well as Lynx's TMR already has a whopping 13 there. But if you opt not to use Lynx's TMR and go for a more standard ninja blade like Kodachi or Sasuke's Katana, then that frees up the TMR slot for a different accessory. Now this can be totally up to you. Mont's Lion Emblem to buff everyone's agility is nice. Jesus' illusory bells are always amazing, though like I mentioned before, they might suit Venera better. For Lynx, being a ninja herself, her equipment slots can mirror 𝐿's. You can literally try to equip her the same way, a traditional ninja blade, hat, and any useful TMR you have laying around. You can give Lynx her own TMR as she can also be built with high faith to inflict status ailments. She has Shadowbind, and her Samurai subjob gives her Night Veil, which can inflict AoE blind. Lastly, for Venera, I would go for Mage Masher as the main weapon rather than a dodge main gouge. While the latter is very interesting with its high 20 evade stat, it doesn't provide additional evasion as part of the item's main attribute, unlike the hats. Also, you're giving up plenty of attack, so let the weapon do what weapons do best, which is provide damage. TMR is flexible if you don't have Jesus' illusory bells. I would consider something with agility, as out of the 3 units on the team, she is technically the slowest. Any questions so far? No? Next! Espers and Visions. 2 of the hardest things to level and max out in this game. But it's okay, it's not very complicated. There are 3 main espers that are just really neat to have equipped in the setup, and some secondary ones that can be good options. The first is Odin. Since the evade comp is mainly for PvP purposes, you're going to want Odin's Man-Eater feature. No other esper does it better. Odin also has an attack stat in the top 5 of all espers, and he also has the highest agility of all espers at 19, which is great for our evade team. The luck is also pretty high at 62, which is tied for 4th highest, and just for good measure, Odin's skill tree also comes with slash attack up. To summarize Odin's build, max out Man-Eater and Evasion first, then take attack up and slash attack up. The second Esper is Behemoth. Behemoth's great because it has a pretty good agility stat at 15, but it has the third highest luck of all Espers in the game at 63. Its attack stat also sits right behind Odin's and is in the top 5 of all Espers. Its skill tree also comes with slash attack up and light resistance, the latter of which can be useful in dealing with some holy spells. And it's an MR Esper. What? The third Esper is 𝐷𝐷𝐷𝐷𝐷. While 𝐷𝐷𝐷𝐷𝐷𝐷 may not have the highest attack, it is up there in agility with 16, which is good for 4th highest of all Espers. Its luck is pretty middle of the road at 58, but the real selling point for it is its unique skill tree that grants up to 15 evasion. That's double that of all other Espers that grant evasion in their skill trees. Now, not everyone has access to both Odin and 𝐷𝐷𝐷𝐷𝐷, so there are definitely viable alternatives to consider. The first is Golem. Its notable points include having access to Man-Eater in its skill tree, along with high defense boosts, high base attack, and massive HP. That HP can come in handy for a Drain Force user like 𝐻𝐿. The only downside is it has low agility. Another alternative is Cactuar. Its main selling point is access to Man-Eater and the highest base luck in the game of all Espers with 66. But it doesn't have evasion in its skill tree, and it has the lowest base attack and third lowest agility of all Espers. It's an SR for good reason. For vision cards, there isn't a whole lot of flexibility, and it's the main reason why the evasion comp is expensive. The main vision that's needed is Shiva. This UR card provides a party-wide evasion increase up to 20 when it's maxed out. 20! The downside is that the vision is primarily magic-based, which neither 𝐻𝐿, Venera, nor Lynx are built on. This is exactly why I mentioned Ramza and Mediana earlier in the video. They can hold the Shiva card while the other traditional attackers can focus on others. There is an alternative though in a currently unreleased MR Vision card called, I hope this translation is correct, Untrue Pledge, True Soul, which grants a lower party-wide evasion boost. But it does have slash up for the user equipping it. Neat! At Max Awakening, it grants 10 evasion, which by comparison is actually less than an unawakened Shiva VC that gets up to plus 12. See the difference? Aside from the flat evasion boosting card, the next vision I want to talk about is Secrets of the Heart, another UR card. It grants increased luck for the whole party and increases earth attack for the user. This card is specifically made for 𝐻𝐿. When maxed out, it gives a whopping 35% increase to luck to the whole party. That's disgusting. But like Shiva, there is an MR alternative. For party-wide luck, you can look at Birth of a New Life. At Max Awakening, it grants 21% increased luck for the party, which isn't too bad. But it's still less than what an unawakened Secrets of the Heart can provide, which is 25%. At least Birth of a New Life also increases the max HP of the user, so it's actually pretty handy insurance in case you do get hit by something, but you really shouldn't get hit at all if you had high evasion. The last vision card is more flexible than the previous two, but ideally you'd want something that can increase agility for more evasion. For agility, there's nothing better than the limited Scion of House
The Heretic, 𝐅𝐅𝐁𝐄
𝐖𝐎𝐓𝐕. Not many people have this option, especially one that's awakened and leveled. If you can't go the agility route, you can opt for more damage instead. In a slasher party, you can decide between Echoing Screams or Secret Orders. The former grants more raw power, while the latter is much more easy to max out, and it also grants the user a pretty hefty agility boost. The awesome thing about the Evade comp is that it can pretty much go against any team composition. Physical slashers, magic users, turtlers. It just has one weakness. Teams with guaranteed hit capabilities, namely sharpshooters and holy users. By default, sharpshooters are currently limited to gunners, so Frederica and Lucia. The latter is by far your worst enemy, as Lucia, being wind element, completely demolishes 𝐻𝐿. Lucia isn't just capable of hitting 𝐻𝐿 with sharpshoot, she's capable of one-shotting her twice over in one hit. essentially turning the match into a 2 vs 3 in the opening rounds before it becomes a 1 vs 3 as she's equally capable of one-shotting Shadow Lynx. And speaking of Lynx, with her low HP, she can also be one-shot by Frederica's Sharpshoot. As for Holy, you're less likely to have issues with this in AI battles, as AI-controlled white mages will not be smart enough to prioritize casting Holy on your units than spending time buffing and healing teammates. But in player-controlled match battles, you can bet the enemy Ayaka or Salir will take any opportunity to clean house. There are other units that can also carry guaranteed hit options. Ramza's Limit Burst is a guaranteed hit. In the near future, the Earth-Mage 𝐄𝐕 has more than one ability that can guarantee hits, so keep an eye out. That said, there are far more units that don't have guaranteed hit abilities than those that do, so the odds are still in your favor. Slashers are still the most prominent team compositions and will continue to be the case for quite some time. Even if more players opt to use magic setups, not everyone will carry Holy users. And if you're focused on arena battles and guild battles, it's just a matter of scouting ahead to check if you may be going against a team of sharpshooters. Are evade units the strongest? No, not in the slightest. But in a game that's built around RNG and chance, it's quite satisfying to be able to manipulate that in some way, and that's where building and optimizing an evade team comes in. Well, that's it for this video. Hey, it's the first video on this channel. So, you know what that means. Please subscribe, like, share with your War of the Visions buddies that may be interested in this topic. Please drop any thoughts in the comments section, and if you have any ideas for future videos or guides, do let me know. Thank you, and blessings to your 10 poles and whimsy shops.